Around here, there's a bunch of crooks around here.
You ain't supposed to be in that jail, boy. Get out of there, man.
No, that's a total no, man. VAT coming.
Is my salary going up?
The Bahamian people gotta wake up.
This is my 5 cents and I approve this message.
Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12 Weekend, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, the murder count climbs by 3 overnight. Why some last-minute passport applicants won't be traveling this summer. VEC says its Friday disconnection plan worked. The Department of Environmental Health needs your help preventing the spread of chikungunya. Plus, children with special needs end their summer program with a bang. I'm Paige McCartney. We've got those stories and more straight ahead on MB12 Weekend. Once again to MB12, 2 men were killed in separate shooting incidents this morning. The first incident was reported around 2:30 this morning. Police Superintendent Stephen Dean says 2 men showed up at Princess Margaret Hospital with gunshot wounds.
One of the men succumbed to the injuries shortly thereafter. Police are in the preliminary stage of that investigation to determine exactly where the incident happened, what caused the incident, but as the information unfolds, we'll update you in a later press release. We can tell you that shortly after 5:30 this morning, we got another call on Meadow Street that a man was shot in a home. Police responded, and upon arrival on the scene, they met the body of a male suffering from gunshot wounds.
According to Dean, a man and woman were asleep when 2 gunmen forced their way inside their home and shot the man in the head. Dean says at the moment police have no motive for the shootings, but is asking anyone who may have seen something suspicious to contact them.
On the scene, we have our detectives, crime scene officers, and uniform officers. They are really canvassing this area, trying to unfold any evidence that we might have or any witnesses. We are appealing to members of the public who might have been canvassing the area, who might have been walking, who might have been just awake. If you have seen anybody walking this area, riding, to please contact us. Immaterial to how insignificant the information might seem, we are asking you to please contact the police. Contact the police. It can help us solve this crime and bring these persons to justice.
These killings come a day after a man and a woman were shot at a bar just off Kemp Road. The woman, we understand, died in hospital. Superintendent Clayton Fernandez says residents in the area should not be afraid because police are constantly on patrol.
But we want to assure members, the community in this area, that the police is in the community. We have consistent patrols in this area on a 24-hour basis. So you will see us up and about, and we are here to serve the members of the public and to make sure that they are safe.
Meantime, police are investigating the death of Maud McCartney on Thursday night as a homicide. The elderly woman's body was found burnt beyond recognition in a Collins Avenue home that was destroyed by fire on Thursday evening. Firefighters discovered the woman's charred remains when they extinguished the fire shortly after 6 p.m. Relatives described McCartney as very healthy and independent. Investigations are ongoing. In other news tonight, some families who wait until the last minute to apply for new passports could find themselves disappointed this summer, especially those people who have already booked flights for family vacations. Due to a huge backlog in applications, officials say they might not get their passports in time. The Foreign Affairs Minister recently spoke with our Kyle Joaquin about the major delay in processing passports.
For many Bahamians this summer, their passport will be the one factor hindering them from hopping on a plane and traveling abroad, all the result of an unusually high increase in late passport applicants. It happens every year. Passport lines out the door and applications stacked up on desks in the passport office. This summer, things are even more hectic for employees at the passport office. Just last month, Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell announced that the wait time to process passport applications was 6 weeks. However, he says that time has now been extended to at least 2 months.
It takes 8 weeks to get a passport, unless there's an emergency of some kind. And an emergency at this point in time is restricted essentially to this: medical or students who have to fly away to school. vacation is not considered emergency.
Mitchell says there is a backlog of 4,000 applications that require data entry. And this backlog has the minister considering the idea of bringing public servants from the other departments to assist, as well as other measures, including more security. He says that's why they warned Bahamians not to wait until the last minute to submit applications.
We're trying to recruit from across the service to put in double shifts to try and work our way through that backlog. So it's just a difficult issue. We're trying to get some additional equipment to deal with it, but the long and short is that you really just have to plan to get the passport unless there's some emergency.
Mitchell says if you have put in an application anytime in July, chances are you will not receive your passport before the end of the summer. For those whose passports have not expired but still filed an application, Mitchell says they will be able to travel on their old passport. However, for those people with an expired passport, Mitchell says it is their loss. Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
It appears that BEC's efforts to increase revenue collection by recommencing Friday disconnections have paid off. Earlier this week, the corporation urged customers to bring their accounts up to date to avoid being disconnected on a Friday and face the possibility of a weekend without electricity. Management explained that the cash-strapped corporation needed to boost its revenue. BEC's public relations officer Arnett Ingram says it worked.
Well, we're talking about residential customers who may not have necessarily the high account balances as some of our commercial customers, but it certainly was a boost for us. What I want to emphasize is that in the next coming weeks, we are going to be a little bit more aggressive in our approach to disconnect customers. So if you do have overdue balances, there's a possibility, an increased possibility, I should say, that you will be disconnected. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making announcements on the radio and in the newspapers saying what areas we're going to be in, and we encourage customers to look out for that. So if you're in one of those areas where we're conducting disconnection exercises, you'll be well aware in advance that we're coming to you so that you can come into BEC and perhaps pay down that balance or pay it off.
Ingram said there was a misconception that BEC was conducting mass disconnections. However, she pointed out that the corporation doesn't have the manpower to conduct such an exercise at this time.
People thought that we were having a mass disconnection exercise. That certainly wasn't the case. To think about it, BEC couldn't possibly disconnect all customers on a Friday. It's almost impossible to disconnect everybody who is in arrears. What we're doing is we're actually spreading it out. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all of those days, there's a possibility that you could be disconnected. Unfortunately, some people thought that it was just Friday, so everybody rushed in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to come in and pay their bills. That turned out to be good for us because at least we can get those people who have arrears to come in and if not make payment arrangements, they actually settle their overdue balances, so then they're safe for this month.
When he was appointed BEC chairman in 2012, Leslie Miller put an end to Friday disconnections, citing Bahamians' financial difficulties. On Wednesday, he told reporters that he disagreed with BEC's plan to resume Friday disconnections because most residential customers owe up to $5,000 and can't find the funds on a weekend to settle their bills. The corporation is encouraging those customers to set up payment plans. And speaking of BEC, Miller's firing back at former State Minister for the Environment, Fenton Nemore, who once again called for his resignation. Miller said Nemore's rants are simply tactics to stay in the news. The BEC chairman says Nemore should be the last person talking about BEC's operations because when he was in charge under the Ingram administration, he never held one meeting with BEC's management team.
If you're an organization, you're there for 5 years like I'm there, you think you can have one meeting with them? Ask Nemore why was it that 2 days before the general election, a contract was signed to put up a new engine at Clifton that he know wasn't any good, saying that he is this great engineer. Ask him why he did that. That is, if he knew anything about it, he is probably clueless about it anyhow.
Nemore recently criticized the government for the delay in transferring to renewable energy. However, Miller says there are a number of things that must first be put in place.
As far as the collection, BEC accounts receivable right now is about $187 million. $30 million of that is government, the rest is the private sector. We are having severe situation now in trying to collect our funds, and that's part of the problem. But that's part of the problem because Bahamians are unable to pay the damn high electricity bill. Nobody can afford it. And the only way to bring the bill down is to get new engines at Clifton, and within a short period of time, we'll wait the LNG. It's simple.
As for Nemours' criticism of government's delay in selecting one of several bidders for VEC, Miller says that is up to the Prime Minister and his cabinet, something he says Nemours should know.
What they forget to tell you is that a few months before the general election, they made a decision that Bahamians could pay their bill over a 3-year period. Even if you have a bill that is $1,000, it gives you 3 years to pay the bill. Do you know what situation that put BEC in when BEC could not collect his bill on a timely basis? Furthermore, they should tell you why 3 days before the last general election, they decided to sign a contract with Hitachi, okay? That knowing that engine consume more diesel, 30% more than if they had purchased a slow-speed engine to go to Clifton Pier. Okay, that cost BEC about $30 million.
And in other news, officials at the Department of Environmental Health say they need your help in preventing the further spread of the chikungunya virus. So far, there have been 6 confirmed cases and several suspected cases. Assistant Director of Andrew Thompson says while they are doing the best they can at vector control, the public still has a big role to play.
They have a very important role to play in making sure at least every week they go out and they check the premise for anything that can hold water. Again, in the first instance, empty it out, turn it down, and when they're able to do so, they would then be able to take it to a designated disposal site. But again, it is very important that we remove those resources.
Thompson says they're strategically placing cubic containers around various areas of New Providence so that people can dispose of those bins that may serve as breeding ground for mosquitoes. He adds that they're also carrying out fogging, but that only works on adult mosquitoes.
Persons need to be involved in reducing the sources of breeding, because when the fogging truck passes by, it's the adult that is up and about at that point in time that will be killed. But if you have thousands of containers breeding, the following day you would have emergence. And so you have to really pay attention to the source reduction. We are hoping that the public gets involved and make sure that anything that is holding water, that they take them to those bins and they would be eventually removed. But if that, again, like I say, if that is some difficulty for some people, in the interim, just tip over the container, make sure it's turned down, make sure it's under something that cannot collect water, and I think we'll be well on our way to limiting the risk of further transmission.
Thompson says the suspected chikungunya cases are in the Peardale and Ida Street areas in New Providence, as well as on Grand Bahama and Abaco. The virus causes fever, joint pain, headaches, and rash. Stay with us. When MB12 returns, how you can protect yourself from credit and debit card fraud. And later, doctors say pre-diabetes among children is on the rise. Stay with us.